Welcome to Right Way Politics. We do politics the right way, the winning way, and we leave the left way behind. And you can't wish, hope, plan for a better presidential announcement than Nikki Haley did. With the attention that she got, I'm not 1,000% on this. There is a serious flaw in the Nikki Haley campaign that is fixable, but this last week has certainly shown it to be true. Nikki Haley, of course, the former ambassador to the United Nations under Trump, former governor of South Carolina, the only person to formally announce for president other than Donald Trump. She really jumped ahead of the field. There are many Republicans who are bandying about, floating their names, looking at running for president, planning on running for president. But Nikki Haley jumped ahead of the pack and rolled out her formal announcement for her campaign this past week and got handed a gift. The only way it could have been better is if it came from MSNBC, but actually it came from CNN with Don Lemon, who reacted to her big announcement that she is running for the Republican nomination for president. And boy, did Don Lemon step into it with this wonderful opinion that he gave the American people and a window into the soul of the Democratic Party. Here's what he said.
She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
You need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime?
What a gaffe! Hasn't been on TV much since. He offered his giant apology of, boy, I didn't mean to say what I said, and boy, I hope that I'm sorry if anybody got offended. But the bottom line is that gave Nikki Haley a giant boost in attention because, and she's now actually merchandising off of it. Everything from koozies to, I guess, up all caps, past your prime, Nikki Haley. She's taking it and running with it. She now has a stripe on her arm of taking on the liberal media. She got a reporter knocked off of TV. She got a commentator. She got a Democratic mouthpiece that the Democrats are running away from. You don't see Joe Biden commenting on what Don Lemon said. Very awkward in press secretary briefings when the press asks about it. I tell clients all the time, when they say, oh my gosh, what if they attack me? And I say, oh my gosh, what if they don't? You wish, you hope, you pray for the liberal establishment media or your opponents to take a shot at you. Donald Trump lived in 2016 off of being attacked because his counterpunches were lethal. If any of his Republican primary opponents took a shot at him, he destroyed them in the counterattack. Happened over and over and again. And when you're Nikki Haley and you're jumping out way before anybody else is, and she's pretty low in the polls, she's still in single digits, she got a little bump from her announcement, and she certainly got a bump from this attention. And the weird part is she got attacked by Ann Coulter on the right, too, and nobody paid attention to that. Nobody gave Ann Coulter 5 seconds of attention because all the counterpunches went to Don Lemon and taking him out. And Nikki Haley didn't even acknowledge Ann Coulter's existence, played it right, played it perfectly, and is now reminding everybody through merch that she was the one that Don Lemon said was past her prime. And it's taking it for all it's worth. It's fantastic. She is a highly qualified candidate, and for past her prime, she's younger than me. She's at the ripe young age of 51. But boy, it gave what was kind of a It wasn't the best rollout. It wasn't the most knockout speech. There were no real memorable lines from her launch that everybody would be talking about for weeks to come. But everybody's talking about it now, and it's the one flaw about this, the one thing that's horrible about this, the one thing that if you had to do it all over again, you would have really had a barn burner of a speech, is that more people are talking about Don Lemon than they are about Nikki Haley. It's the one flaw about living on these counterpunches. But when you're taking a shot at the media for a stupid attack, and it was a stupid attack, but the media gets all the attention. Everybody will sit there and debate what Don Lemon said. Do they even remember Nikki Haley's name? If we look at the polls, she's really not, Mike Pence was the vice president of the United States. Nikki Haley is pulling roughly even with Mike Pence in the mid-single digits, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. There was a state poll done in Kansas. It did show her peaking at 9%, but we're talking about, 75 to 76% of the Republicans are choosing one of the top two. They're in there for Trump or DeSantis. If you look at the latest Harvard-Harris poll, you're talking, 46 to 23. That's 69% of the people that are with the top two. Quinnipiac, it's even higher, 78%. It's either Trump or DeSantis. Nikki Haley's down at 4. It's even worse in the Emerson poll that was done in January. She was at 3. So the good thing about her is she's twice where she was in January. She is jumping up the pack a little bit. She's still under 10% of the vote. She's not really stealing anything away from Trump or DeSantis. She's more coalescing the lion's share of the vote of the non-Trump, non-DeSantis voters. And we know, and we saw this in 2016, you'll see this, and we saw it on the Democratic side. These numbers are fluid. They're of registered voters. They're not really anything amazing that we say they're locked in and these opinions aren't going to change. We're going to see a lot of fluctuation as we move forward, as other people formally announce or drop out and actually start campaigning and start organizing. And again, we have to remember the Republican primary process is not something that is national. And we have to remember the schedule for these primary contests in 2024. We start with Iowa. This is February of 2024. We're a full year away from these contests. You're talking about the Iowa caucuses, the New Hampshire primary, then it's into South Carolina and Nikki Haley territory, and then into the Super Tuesday contest. So we're a long way away where these polls really don't firm up anything or give anybody any real organizational advantage. Nobody's really campaigning in Iowa and New Hampshire yet. A few candidates made flat out skip South Carolina with Nikki Haley running, but there's so many people that are on the list of people who, we mentioned DeSantis and Pence, but there's also a long list of governors and others who are considering running for the Republican nomination for president. So these are not polls that we can set in stone, but if you're Nikki Haley, you've got to be happy with the gift, and it was a gift, that Don Lemon gave her campaign with that idiot statement, because I fear that her announcement would have been less than a blip without that attack. I don't think many people would have discussed it or even Googled her name or had heard of her name, but they're all talking about Don Lemon now, and it's become a major issue, and she is converting it into a talking point. She's done a great job. She took what was handed to her, but it did reveal that she's pretty far back when it comes to Republican primary voters and just basic awareness of her campaign and who she is and why she's the choice. A distant third, fourth place. And absent this attack, I don't think her announcement would have gone very well for her. And even with this attack, people know Don Lemon. Are they talking about Nikki Haley? And that's the one problem I have with this thing. They're not talking about Nikki Haley. She happens to be in the story, but they're talking about Don Lemon and CNN a lot more than they're talking about Nikki Haley. So as much as this is a nice little boost, I don't think it's something that can sustain a campaign conversation. It will get old very quickly, but for what it is now, for a year before the first caucus and the first primary, it's not bad, and it's well played. As we look over to the Democratic, I'm surprised nobody's making hay about this, but when you look at the polls for the Democratic presidential nomination, when you have a sitting Democratic president, they can't poll higher than the 30s in their own party. If you look at all these polls, Biden is a drag. If you go to the Harvard-Harris poll, Biden's at 36, Kamala Harris at 15. When the vice president is not even running against you, your vice president is on the ticket with you, and she's polling 15, and you're polling 36. And Barry Sanders, your old opponent, is polling 8. There are major problems in the Democratic base when your sitting Democratic president can't get above 35 to 40% in any of these polls. It's still clearly his. I'm not going to say he's in Jimmy Carter land, in danger of having a primary contest. But if one would happen, it just seems that there's a lot of Democrats out there that would like somebody else but Biden, or they don't expect Biden to be running anyway, which is a serious problem when the Democratic base has questions about their own first-term president running for a second term. Republicans have yet to exploit this. I don't know why, but serious problems when you have a Democrat incumbent polling that low among their own party. It's something worth watching. It's another trouble spot. He's got to consolidate himself. It's not like Kamala Harris is out there saying, I will not run, I will not accept. We're not having those conversations yet, but it's going to be an interesting presidential. Biden looks like he's in trouble. DeSantis looks like he's in a pretty strong position. Trump has got his base. It's going to be a nice little fight for the Republicans all year long. And we're going to follow every step of it here on Right Way Politics. So according to Right Way Politics, Nikki Haley played it the right way, did it the best that she could, but it exposed a serious early flaw in her campaign, in that most people are talking about her attack and who attacked her, and they're not talking about her, and she's got to fix that. This is Brian Kerwin, political consultant, and we'll see you next time on Right Way Politics.